Phase 4 for the MCU was a step backward for the fan-loved franchise, so let's talk about what they could do to correct that course. What's up, my comic comrades? After the iconic conclusion of the first 10 years of Marvel films with Endgame wrapping up Phase 3, the next era for the MCU was introduced with Phase 4, but let's just say it's been a little underwhelming. So now that we're into Phase 5, we're gonna look at 5 things we'd like to see Marvel do to get the MCU firing on all cylinders once again. First thing we wanna see in Phase 5 is for Marvel to start introducing some of the amazing characters that the MCU has been teasing for years. Starting with Miles Morales. They've been teasing his entrance since Spider-Man Homecoming, when Spidey uses his interrogation mode to get info out of Aaron Davis, who we know in Marvel Comics as Prowler and the uncle of Miles Morales. Davis even refers to his nephew Miles in the scene, so that's really a twofer, because we'd like to see the Prowler too.
Yeah, sorry Miles, I'm not gonna make it. Yeah, I'm just stuck.
Anyway, Miles was further teased in Spider-Man No Way Home when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is talking to Electro and says,
"You got that suit, you help a lot of poor people. I just thought you was gonna be black."
Oh man, I'm sorry.
I don't apologize. There's gotta be a black Spider-Man somewhere out there.
This yet again alludes to Miles Morales, as he's half black and half Puerto Rican. That's right, he's got that Latin spice. So clearly Miles is coming to the MCU, it's just a matter of when, and hopefully it's Phase 5. Then we got freaking Nova. Nova has been teased since the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. The Nova Corps is literally a massive part of that film, as is Xandar, and we have yet to see Nova all these years later. Like, what the hell is happening here? Hopefully they give us an actual teaser for him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and then he becomes a new member of the Guardians or works closely with them going forward. Or how about Beta Ray Bill, as he was teased in Thor Ragnarok? We literally saw him as part of a monument or a statue on Sakaar. I for sure thought they were going to introduce him in Thor Love and Thunder, and he was going to take Stormbreaker, as he's the one who wields it in the comics, and Thor would take back Mjolnir. But no, instead the movie ends with Thor adopting Gore, the God Butcher's daughter, and them becoming some sort of dynamic duo. They should have just gave us Beta Ray Bill and had him team up with Thor and end the film like that. So hopefully Phase 5 will finally see Bill. Also, what about the Human Torch? And no, not the Fantastic Four Human Torch, I'm talking about the android Human Torch from 1939's Marvel Comics issue 1, aka Jim Hammond Human Torch. They teased him briefly in the Stark Expo in Captain America: The First Avenger. We see him in his containment unit thing, or at least a mannequin wearing his suit. That's right, they teased the android Human Torch in a Phase 1 movie, and still nada. Now I know this could just be more of an Easter egg for us fans, and doesn't necessarily mean he's gonna show up, but I mean, a tease is a tease and we want it. Overall, there's so many other characters they've hinted and alluded to, like Ares the God of War, Moondragon, and Brother Voodoo, just to name a few. Now I would also add Fantastic Four, but we know they are getting a solo film in Phase 6, so at least we got confirmation they're on the way. But you know what else we want to see in Phase 5 and have no clue when they're popping up? The X-Men. The freaking mutants. They were teased in the Multiverse of Madness, where we got an alternate version of Professor X on the Illuminati, played by the iconic Patrick Stewart. They were also teased and even played a brief snippet of their theme song at the end of the first season of Ms. Marvel, alluding that they're coming and that she is in fact a mutant. But when are they coming? We have no idea. All I know is I better see at least Cyclops or Wolverine in Phase 5, because they've been teasing the X-Men forever and we need something. Now obviously we know that we're getting Hugh Jackman Wolverine in Deadpool 3, but I'm talking about the MCU's 616 X-Men that haven't been introduced yet. In summary, there's a ton of characters they've teased over the years, and it's about time you get them in Phase 5. The next thing we want to see in Phase 5 is more horror. We got a taste of MCU horror with the Werewolf by Night Halloween special this past October, and it was a ton of fun. Was it mind-blowing? No, but it was a lot of fun and showed us that the MCU needs to do more horror. I mean, we already know characters like Blade are coming, and he's supposed to have a solo film, and now we got similar horror characters already introduced, like Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing, so let's keep going down this path. Let's knock 2 birds with 1 stone and give us Ghost Rider, a character we've all been wanting forever in the MCU. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghost Rider doesn't count. If you gave us Ghost Rider, you could have him cross paths with Blade, Werewolf by Night, Man-Thing, and Mephisto, all while doing awesome horror stuff. I'm just saying, it's about time we get some horror in the MCU. Again, they already started with Werewolf by Night special, so let's keep this train rolling. The third thing I think we need for Phase 5 is more connectiveness, synergy, if you will. Infinity Saga, the first 10 years of the MCU, did that flawlessly. Was everything in the Infinity Saga film a banger? No, but the way they connected everything together was great. It's probably the biggest reason the first 10 years for Marvel Studios was so successful. It was the cohesive, easy to follow story throughout all their films. However, with Phase 4, they've gotten away from that. Yes, the greater MCU is still connected, and we get references of other characters in different shows and movies, but every show and movie, for the most part, in Phase 4, feels very self-contained and not interwoven properly into the greater MCU. I think a big part of that is is because, as we know, it was an introduction phase giving us a bunch of new characters like She-Hulk, Shang-Chi, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and more. Which is fine, but you could argue that the Infinity Saga was introducing new characters and teams all the time, just like Phase 4, and they didn't have a problem. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy, Scarlet Witch, Vision, the Winter Soldier, Falcon, Spider-Man, and the list goes on. Yet all those new characters and even teams fit in perfectly with the overarching story they were telling and didn't feel forced or out of nowhere. So for Phase 5, we want the MCU to get back to the basics, so to speak, to the formula that made the first 10 years so successful. I think this is one of the reasons why Phase 4 is so polarized, because we didn't really know what the stakes were for each individual character, and how they're all going to line up with one another when it all inevitably comes together in Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. But hopefully, with the bulk of all the new characters already introduced, Phase 5 brings it all together and tells us where we're going as we head into Phase 6. You know what else we want to see in Phase 5? Marvel to stop using iconic villains we all love from the comic books only to kill them off at the end of the first movie they appear in. And this is a problem Marvel has had from the jump. You don't have to kill off your villain all the time. It's fine to just arrest them and lock them away somewhere. That way there's an option of them coming back. Sure, this is fiction and you could bring characters back from the dead, but it's a lot easier to just be like, hey, they escaped from prison. Isn't that nuts? Than to explain how they came back from the dead somehow. Let's go all the way back to the first Iron Man film. Ironmonger, huge Iron Man villain in the comics, dead by the end of the film. Iron Man 2, another big Iron Man villain, Whiplash, dead. Thor the Dark World, Malekith, dead. Freaking Ronan, one of the biggest Marvel villains ever, dead at the end of the first Guardians film. What about Killmonger? We all love him, right? Dead. Hell, Ant-Man, Yellow Jacket, dead. Then they brought him back as MODOK, a character we've been waiting to see in the MCU for years because MODOK is a major player in the comic books. And guess what? Guess what? Dead at the end of Quantumania. The point is, they need to stop killing off every villain at the end of their movies, especially the iconic ones. It's okay to just beat them up and not kill them. And the last thing we want to see in Phase 5 is Marvel Studios sharing with other studios. Marvel has already done this and is currently doing this with Sony to allow them to use Spider-Man. So let's keep going, because the only reason we haven't gotten another Hulk solo movie after the first one in Phase 1 is because Universal holds the rights to the solo Hulk films. Which again is why every time we see the Hulk, he has to be in someone else's films, like Thor Ragnarok or the Avengers. But if they work something out with Universal, we could finally get a proper World War Hulk movie in the MCU, and maybe even a Maestro movie. Heck, I even want them to share better with Sony, because yes, they are currently working something out to use Spider-Man, but let's be honest guys, the Sony villain movies like Venom, Morbius, and now Kraven this year haven't been the best. I would much rather have all the Spider-Man villains completely be in the hands of Marvel Studios, because whatever they're doing at Sony with those movies hasn't been working. Having said that, we haven't seen the Kraven movie yet because it's not out, so I'll hold judgment until that releases. But the two Venom films and definitely Morbius, not the best. So the fact that Sony and Marvel are trying to tie Spider-Man villains from Sony to the MCU Spider-Man has us worried. But there you go guys, those are 5 things we would like to see change in the MCU in Phase 5. There are definitely other things we could add, and everyone's got their own ideas. But what 5 things would you like to see change in Phase 5? Let us know down below.